The Leader of Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker. I was hoping that, as Acting Speaker, I was hoping that this important matter will be debated at a later stage, but I'm also happy that it's been brought forward. And so I just want to add to this debate, basically by discussing a few things, and we've heard from the Treasurer that the global economy, there's a downturn in the global economy with World Bank revising the growth downwards. And obviously that will have with the COVID-19 effects, which is still being felt around the world. Some economies have recovered, some are still slow to recover. And so as a nation, we are affected in some or in so many ways. But now we are talking about a possible IMF standby arrangements and a structural adjustment program also from the World Bank. And I am thankful that during the minister's presentation, paper has attached schedules outlining the quantitative and the qualitative performance criteria, including the structural benchmarks. And I'd like to focus my comments on that in this debate. Mr. Acting Speaker, from what has been presented, this is a loan that will be repaid back in about 5.5 years, and maturity is 10 years, meaning that the responsibility of repaying that loan will be left to the next government after the elections in 2027. And so I just want to basically outline some of these measures that will be imposed on us. And as I said, that this is like a carrot. We'll give you money, you do this, we give you the carrot, so to speak. It comes with a lot of conditionalities that have been just been outlined. And I just want to add here that there are a lot of risks associated with this particular program. And I want to highlight that. But firstly, that this 3.25 billion kina loan will be repaid back within, will be disbursed over 38 months, 6-month monthly disbursements. And it addresses the fiscal, monetary, and the external sector of our economy. The issue of risks arises when you look at the timing. We have a global economy that's been, the growth has been revised downwards. We're just coming out of, or perhaps we are still in COVID-19 pandemic situation. Hearing and seeing and reading from our domestic economy, many of our sectors are struggling. The business houses, the issues of inflationary pressures are still out there. And so when we look at the timing issue, is there a risk? And the reason why I am saying this, and one of the things that has not covered in the, or is not shown in the quantitative performance criteria is the growth. Usually under IMF standby arrangements and programs, they also list everything, including growth GDP, they also list it down. However, so that's been missing. And so I will rely on empirical evidences of other countries that do undergo a structural adjustment program from the IMF. And usually it starts with a contraction in the economy. Because as you will note from the quantitative schedule as well, the size of the budget deficit has been fixed. It's been fixed, it's been reduced. In fact, it's been reduced from this year's estimated budget deficit of around 5.9 billion or something. So it's gone down to around 4 something billion. So the size of the budget is going to be tightened up. And so within that context, obviously in other parts of the globe, when we study these things, usually initially, when you start a program, size of the economy will contract. And I was just hoping that they would put that kind of quantitative indicators there so that we can see how the economy will be performing under an IMF program. So that's something that's missing, and I'm pretty sure the officials have already discussed that, just not here. And so that's one of the risks, is that when you have this kind of thing, and the other thing that's missing here is that you know that there are various portions of our population within our society that are disadvantaged. When you have this kind of programs, the government must build into the intervention program a social intervention program that whilst we are implementing this, we must also target and protect our budget that flows towards assisting the portion of our population that are disadvantaged. And so if the Treasurer is talking about the household assistance program, build that one inside. Inside the measure. You can walk inside, cutting deficit and cutting or something. So this is why I am trying to add in my debate, Mr. Acting Speaker, is that those two elements are missing. And if we can have that on, that would be good. The other issue is the issue of exchange rate. And I just want to caution, and I know that the fund has been very adamant that we need to remove our exchange rate, let the market clear the exchange rate value. And obviously we all know it's going to go down, devalue or depreciate. My concern is that we have a huge debt that is in external loans. And when we do that, I need the Treasurer and his officials and the government to study this very well. Is it going to lead us into default? Because we have like almost 6 to 7 billion kina in external debt alone. Sorry, US dollars in external debt alone. And I'm raising this concern, Mr. Acting Speaker, because by looking at the quantitative performance criteria of the fund, you will notice that when the fund hits, and then by end of this year, the foreign reserves level will drop from the current 3.26 billion kina, sorry, 3.26 billion US dollars to 1.76 billion US dollars. So this plan now, yeah, that is one of the effects, and it's part of the criteria here. So I'm just thinking around it, and that's a risk. And if we use 1 kina to, what, 0.28 US cents, that's going to be around 5 to 6 billion kina in foreign reserves by end of this year under the program. And I'm pretty sure that they will try to shore up our foreign exchange through all those loans. But I just want to add that as a risk, given that we are already affected. Many of our business houses are already affected by this foreign exchange issues they're having. These are the risks that I want to highlight, and some of the missing things that we need to look at. The last thing I want to say is that I bumped into a gentleman, most of you may have known him. He used to be working at UPNG as a professor way back in the 60s and early 70s, Professor Clunies Ross. I think he was there with Professor Ross Ganau. And I met him during my studies in one of the IMF World Bank negotiations. So we were doing these mock negotiations. And so he introduced himself, and I had a chat with him. And he said, you know, PNG, you shouldn't be running to the IMF and the World Bank. You are like, you're only two countries in the world, PNG and Botswana. You have so much minerals and gas, diamonds, resources. And you are able to stabilize your economy with the Mineral Stabilization Fund. You know, it was in those days. Huh? And so he said, this is a good thing. You are in a good country, and they can come all this line. And this is what he said. So I thought I'd leave that as a parting comment during my debate on this issue. Thank you, Mr. Acting Speaker.